Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new episode of F1 2021 My Driver Career Mode here on their channel. Hope you're all having a great day. Today we're going racing in the Austrian GP. Unfortunately, coming into this Austrian GP, we will be taking a gearbox penalty. We are switching gearboxes. Main reason being, I looked at the upcoming tracks on the schedule and I felt most comfortable taking a for sure grid penalty at Austria, because we do not want to take one in the next episode at Silverstone, which could possibly be the roughest GP of the season for us, so I don't want to have to take a grid penalty on top of that already. So we're taking it here in Austria now, coming into this GP weekend. I was pretty excited, of course, coming off of our first win of the season in France at Circuit de Paul Ricard and our second overall win in F1. It kind of came in similar fashion to our win in Mexico last season, where everything just kind of aligned perfectly to get us that victory. So it was a little bit disappointing that we didn't just, straight up win the race on pace and stuff and making passes. No, we just kind of had things work out perfectly for us. So I still want to check that box of saying, hey, I was the fastest guy here, I had the best car, I did everything right, and I won the race. But we still quite haven't done that yet. I was thinking we were going to have good speed with the Aston Martin coming into Austria. Of course, there was 3 long straightaways that could really help, of course, with our top speed advantage that we have on the grid. But surprisingly, we were a little bit off the pace compared to a lot of the other teams in front of us, of Mercedes, Red Bull, McLaren, and Ferrari was doing pretty well competing with us as well. So, like I said, surprisingly off the pace to say the least here in Austria now, as we probably don't even have podium speed pace here, which was what I was kind of hoping, is we could maybe battle for podiums today, but I don't quite know how it's going to work out. Austria so far has been the craziest GP of pretty much every season, it feels like, so we expected nothing less here this season. Now, as in Q1, we comfortably got through into Q2. I made an extra insurance lap towards the end just to make sure we got into Q2, but we got in no problems whatsoever here. But you can see Vettel only P11 and myself P13, so as of right now, none of us are even in the top 10, and we come through into Q2 here, and there was rain on the way here, which I didn't even realize. So this first lap that I made would end up being the most important lap, because we come through to cross the line. Briefly we go P4, we would drop down to P10 and the rain would come. It started raining before the session came to a close, which meant we would advance into Q3 along with our teammate of Vettel. You can see the top 5 all on the medium compound tire, but we made it by 1/1000th of a second over the McLaren of Daniel Ricciardo. Thank goodness he did not go out and make a lap on the soft tire, otherwise we would have been out of Q3, unfortunately. So now focusing, of course, on Q3, and it was actually wet to start Q3, so everybody went out on the intermediate tires, but it dried up before the session came to a close. So this is when I decided, of course, it's time to hop out and make a lap here on the soft compound tire and see what we can do with this Aston Martin, which, like I said, hasn't quite had the pace that I had expected to be taking into this GP weekend here in Spielberg. But we come through out of the final turn. Of course, we're going to go P1 for the time being, because the first lap on a dry set of tires, but eventually after everybody came through to cross the line, it was Bottas and Hamilton, your front row, and then I would qualify P7, and for the first time this qualifying session, we actually get ahead of Sebastian Vettel, as we're going to take a grid penalty, of course, of 5 places as we head to the grid here for the Austrian GP.
This is it then, race day in Spielberg for this year's Austrian Grand Prix. Not long to go before our drivers hurtle off the line and into the first turn, the Niki Lauda curve, as it was renamed in 2019 in memory of one of Formula One's most beloved figures. It's one of the shortest laps on the calendar today then, with 7 rights and just 3 lefts, making up the 10 corners of this high-speed circuit. Turn 2 is barely a corner at all. They'll be flat out.
There you saw the grid, and you saw some grid penalties, of course, being taken there. Bottas, who qualified on pole, is going to elect to take a grid penalty, and that will put his teammate, of course, Lewis Hamilton, there in P1 now, as we are P11. So we took our grid penalty, start P11 here, and hopefully we can have a strong Austrian GP, which is set to get underway here in just a few moments' time now, as we start directly behind Valtteri Bottas there in that Aramco Mercedes. Now it's going to be 5 red lights, and it's going to be lights out, and we are underway today in the Austrian GP. Lewis Hamilton, Perez, and Verstappen all up there in the top 3, as now you can see they're already going 3 wide in the background there, as there was an AlphaTauri of Pierre Gasly who was very ambitious right there, made it work up the inside of Perez. He moves up into the final podium position. Charles Leclerc directly in front of our teammate of Sebastian Vettel right there as they head down towards turn 2, and Vettel with a very aggressive move goes past Leclerc up the inside of Perez. Can't quite fight with Perez though on the exit of the corner due to his really awkward angle there into the apex, but a very wild opening couple of corners now. As you can see, I'm just ahead of there, the Williams driver of Antonio Giovinazzi right there now. As you can see, Leclerc making a pass on an Alpine, and it was not a great start for Valtteri Bottas there, who of course right now is battling for this championship lead, but there's a lot of drivers still in this championship battle, and when we come to Austria, we know anything could potentially happen here today, so this championship could be blown wide open here as well, and it can of course get a lot more narrow, so we'll see what happens over the course of these 36 laps here in this Austrian GP. There you see Bottas right now in front of George Russell there in the Alpine, and he is under attack there from the Ferrari. I believe that's Carlos Sainz. They're trying to go around the left-hand side, and they're going to go 3 wide, potentially into turn 1. Not a very smart move from Lando Norris, who made a bunch of contact with Russell. He might have some wing damage from that contact, and that brings myself and Giovinazzi right into the mix here on the rear gearbox of Yuki Tsunoda. I'm going to go to the left-hand side. Still, they're trying to go 3 wide down into the next corner. What are these guys doing? Very aggressive. More contact between Sainz and Norris. Russell drops down to P10. Obviously, no DRS yet because we're only at lap 2, so it's just full-blown engine speed, as well as just that overtake button just carrying us through the grid there. Nearly some contact with Russell. We send one up the inside. We get past him, and you can definitely tell Norris is lacking some pace right there. I think he's got some wing damage, as we're going to be side by side into the left-hander, and he did not have the downforce right there. He had to back out of it, and we get past him, and at the end of this lap, Norris comes into the pit lane to put a new front wing on his car, and then a lap later, Daniel Ricciardo does the same thing. He has to put a new front wing on. So McLaren all of a sudden have had both of their cars into the pit lane due to wing damage, and then the virtual safety car had actually come out here on lap 4, and that was just due to some debris that had gotten scattered along the track. So there wasn't no actual incident there. There was just some debris from some wing damage and stuff as we would get back underway here on just lap 5. It only lasted 1 lap obviously now, and Lewis Hamilton was continuing to be in the lead, but then he would actually lose the lead to Max Verstappen here. So Verstappen out in command currently here in Austria now, as I'm right on the back gearbox of Carlos Sainz now, as we look to the right hand side of the Spaniard down into the corner, battling with my future favorite driver when Sebastian Vettel retires, and we get ahead of him now, and we get sideways right there after we pass Sainz and nearly lose traction and lose control of this car, but we move up into P8 nonetheless now behind Valtteri Bottas, who's 4 seconds up the road now, as Lando Norris, Daniel Ricciardo, they were scrapping it out for 18th and 19th. They make contact right there, or there might be some more wing damage to Lando Norris after that. The McLarens are having a terrible start to this GP. They continue to scrap it out side by side. DRS open there for Norris around the outside, but clearly the downforce is lacking right there. He has no pace, and he would come into the pit lane again. The McLarens are having a downfall here today in the Austrian GP. Now they have come together with each other and clashed and caused wing damage now, as we would continue to just be focusing on our own race and moving our way forwards. And there was a bit of a train going on in front of us, and that was allowing myself to slowly run down Perez, as well as Bottas, as a safety car actually has come out for the first time here in Austria. It took a little bit longer, to be honest, than I expected, but it was for Callum Ilott right here, who would drive directly into the back of the Alpine right there and lose his front wing. Safety car comes out for that, and now there's a whole bunch of chaos here with the pit lane. So I'm trying to come in and get a free pit stop. Well, Sebastian Vettel, he's already there, and he's putting on a new front wing, so the double stack is not going to work here. We're going to give up a bunch of time. Vettel is just now leaving. We've already been stationary for 6-7 seconds, and now the team is, of course, all confused. They're running around getting these tires and, of course, getting the car jack, and we finally get going, but we lose a bunch of track position because of it. We were down in P13 for the restart now. Not really anything else shuffled in front of us here, so we were looking at a relatively similar running order, except for myself, who is now down in P13. So this was a very frustrating moment of this GP here as we would get back underway, and it was my fault. I decided to come into the pit lane behind my teammate of Sebastian Vettel, so there was no one at fault other than myself, as Verstappen leads the way back underway racing here. Hamilton there in second place behind him, and then you got, of course, Perez and Gasly and Leclerc rounding out the top 5, and and there is Bottas making a move on Charles Leclerc right there into turn 1, and he might even get alongside Gasly right now, as Bottas knows he's got to get a move on with it. You know, every single championship point at this point already is going to be so important. Now, is Leclerc going to fight back? It doesn't look like he's just going to kind of stay put behind Bottas here on this opening lap. Back to racing conditions now, as you can see, Verstappen as well as Hamilton and Perez, the top 3, trying to kind of pull away from 4th place on back, as I was able to get past Daniel Ricciardo there in the McLaren, and now I'm right on the gearbox of my former teammate Schumacher, and we nearly actually made contact with our former teammate there, but we are able to get ahead of Mick right there in the Haas. Now, as we continue on our way, they're going to go 3 wide, just about down into the penultimate corner. A terrible move right there. They keep it clean, but here comes Daniel Ricciardo. Things have gotten even worse for the McLaren team. Ricciardo comes into the pit lane, but as well, you can see Schumacher is in, and it looks like Williams as well has come into the pit lane, but I don't know what was going on. It wasn't a wing change for the McLaren of Ricciardo. It was just 4 new tires there with the soft compound, so they have completely gotten the strategy all baffled now as well. McLaren is having a disaster here today in Austria, and they can't afford this if they want to remain in not only the constructors battle, but keep their 2 drivers in the championship battle of Norris and Ricciardo. And Ricciardo's been dropping the ball a bit this season, and obviously his team has dropped the ball a bit right there. Now, as we continue to try and move our way forward, though, I would eventually run down again Yuki Tsunoda, and I would be able to complete the pass on the AlphaTauri BMW right there and move up into now the 9th position. As we would continue on our way forward, now we got back to Carlos Sainz. We passed him earlier. We look to pass him again here now, as I'm going to try and set him up for a switchback here on the exit of the right-hander, and sure enough, it works to a T right there. We look to the right-hand side of now Carlos Sainz again, and we are going to once again pass him and move up now into 8th place behind his Ferrari teammate Charles Leclerc, who I would quickly make work of and try to pass him here into the same corner that we passed Sainz this time. Instead of the inside, we go around the outside. We gain a spot up into 7th place behind our teammate Sebastian Vettel. So we made up all the time that we lost due to the pit stop there. We was in a bit of a moment right there. Thank goodness that did not lead to an accident. So we continue on our way, and then I saw Gasly actually come into the pit lane there, but then the safety car comes out after we had just gone past the pit lane down towards turn 1. It was for George Russell, who slammed into the back of Antonio Giovinazzi, who was coming into the pit lane. He lost his front wheel, and he was out. Safety car is out, and I was in a position where I had to stay out because Vettel comes into the pit lane, and so does everybody else, and now all of a sudden I'm leading on this set of medium compound tires, and it really wouldn't have made sense to pit for the softs because it was already a used set of softs, and everybody behind me is on the soft tire. This is not the position I expected to find myself in, but all of a sudden, with 10 laps to go, coming to 10 laps to go in this Austrian GP, we lead the field to the green flag here. Now Hamilton, Verstappen, Bottas, Perez behind us are 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th here. Now as I try to get the best jump I could, but I know I'm really a sitting duck right here. There's no way I'm going to win this GP because Hamilton, he's already on the gearbox, so myself on the exit of turn 1 as we make this long run down towards turn 2 here now, and I have really nothing for him, but of course I'm going to try and fight as hard as I can. We push him a little bit wide right there. Hamilton still right with us, and Verstappen just behind him here. Now as we continue down this long straightaway towards that right-hander, you can see that Verstappen goes to the left-hand side of Hamilton into the corner, and I actually go a little bit wide right there on the entry, and that opened the door wide open for Lewis Hamilton to actually make a pass on me. He cruises on by. We fall down into 2nd place here now as we just kind of have to settle in there and do the best we can at this point in trying to defend 2nd place, but I knew I was in trouble, and here comes Verstappen. He's putting pressure on me, and I felt like, you know what, he deserved the respect to go and race for the victory here. I really shouldn't have been up here to begin with. It was just the strategy that worked itself out really weirdly, so I let him pass, and you can see that it was really the right move. I was now 3 seconds behind them, and now under attack from Valtteri Bottas here on lap 31. Here goes Bottas to the right-hand side. We get a little bit close with him, and he's going to now take the position and move up into P3 there. Bit of a lockup there, but he continues to stay in control of that Mercedes. I wasn't quite done yet, though, with Valtteri. We have DRS activated. We have overtake mode on here, and we're going to swing back to the right-hand side here, down towards the right-hander, but he had more grip, and of course he can stop that car better than I can right now, so he was able to hold on to the spot. But as that was happening, Max Verstappen moments earlier was able to actually make a pass on Lewis Hamilton here and take the lead of the Austrian GP with less than 10 laps to go, closing in on 5 laps to go. So Verstappen in command here now as we come through, approaching 4 laps to go. Now is Verstappen as he has taken the lead. He is now out of the Austrian GP, a mechanical failure for Max Verstappen. Bottas slams into the back of Verstappen, somehow isn't out of this GP, but he's definitely got some wing damage, and all of a sudden everything's blown wide open here. Hamilton's long gone down the road, but here we are looking at no podium. Now we're P2 on the podium once again there, and Bottas of course was struggling so hard he would be forced to come into the pit lane at the end of this 33rd lap, coming to 3 laps to go. But Perez, Vettel, they were both closing in on me very, very quick here, and as we came through to 2 laps to go in the Austrian GP, I run out of ERS coming to the line. I couldn't do anything there to Perez. He gets back past no problem whatsoever, so we drop down into P3, and here comes Sebastian Vettel closing in as well there, as we now have once again DRS, so we should be able to suck up pretty quick here. But Vettel is of course with a really good run right now. But I go to the left hand side here down towards turn 2. We continue this fight with Sergio Perez now, who's of course battling for this championship lead right now, and it looks very good for him now with Bottas being out of points paying positions here as we get back ahead of Perez down towards the right-hander as we approach this final lap of the Austrian GP. Lewis Hamilton well in command as we exit the final corner. Final lap underway in Austria. What a GP it has been here. We weren't looking at any chance of a podium earlier. Here we are now in a fight from 2nd, 3rd, and 4th through turn 1 we go. We hang on relatively well, but Perez and Vettel both got through there way better than myself. Perez to the right-hand side, a little bit of contact there, as now Vettel's going to make it 3 wide. We're 3 wide in the middle down towards turn 2. I back out. I just don't have the tires that these two have, so I had to back out just a little bit earlier than what they had to do. But now myself and Perez have DRS. Vettel doesn't have that luxury here as we head down towards the right-hander, and we're going to try and break as late as we can, and we're still side by side with Vettel. We get on the curb, we nearly spin the car, but that allows Sebastian Vettel to get back ahead of us here as we drop down to 4th place on this final lap of the Austrian GP. Lewis Hamilton, though, continues to lead the way through the final few corners. He is going to close that championship battle, that lead between himself as well as Bottas and Perez. As he comes through, Lewis Hamilton wins the Austrian GP. It's going to be Perez still with a strong run here in 2nd place. Vettel in P3, myself coming through to cross the line in 4th place here in Austria. Gasly, Norris 5th and 6th place in Austria. Now, what a GP it was, and 4th place honestly was a lot better than I thought we were going to get after we started that GP, and as well after that safety car. So let's head to the podium here for the post-race celebrations.
That's it then for another spectacular Grand Prix here at Austria, and a truly magnificent drive to hang on and take the win. Tell me, Ant, how did they manage to achieve this win?
Well, they played the safety car to absolute perfection. There are so many factors to worry about once the race is neutralised. I mean, do you pit for fresh rubber? Do you have the space behind you? How much fuel can you save? If you answer all of those questions correctly, you'll have a good chance. And that's exactly what happened today.
Mercedes are on top form once again after an excellent race weekend. It's great to see them up on that podium once again.
What a GP. Sergio Perez continues to lead the Red Bull team right now, as Verstappen, of course, was looking at victory there until that mechanical failure. So very, very unfortunate for Max Verstappen there, as he has had so much success at this track in the past, but that really hurts him in the championship battle. We are 32 points out, but Perez 2 points ahead of now Lewis Hamilton, 17 points ahead of Bottas, 19 in front of Vettel, and then you got myself and Norris tied there at 90 points apiece. So doing a really good job putting the fight to the McLaren team, who is the second, third best team on the grid, and they just don't have it right now, and Ricciardo's not helping very much either. And there you see the constructors are back up in a second ahead of Red Bull, 32 points out of Mercedes there, and we have now finished 2 GPs in a row, which, this is sad to say, after this far into the season already, 2 GP finishes in a row is tied for the most we finished. So hopefully in the next race in Silverstone, we can finish that one too, just to break the record there for the season. So what a season it has been so far. It's crazy to think that we're still in the championship battle, but there's been so much luck that has kept us in it there. Very heartbreaking, of course, for Verstappen, who was looking at his first win of the season. But in the next one, we head to Silverstone, where hopefully we can have a strong run, but it's going to be a tough one to say the least. That's been our worst track historically so far, so we'll see what happens. Of course, I want to thank you all for taking the time out of your day to watch this episode, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great day, everybody.